Ladies and gentlemen, praise God and welcome in. This is the Matthew Dark Show. And remember, hit subscribe everywhere you get your shows. Never miss an episode. Another great one for you today. A couple of topics that come right to my heart. It's twofold, because right now, when I look at the landscape of America for our young people, graduating high school, getting into college, they want families, they want a home, they want the American dream. I think it's harder for them than ever to obtain it. And I know if we go back to our boomer generation, our 1950s, this is how I envisioned it. I envisioned it. Dad gets he goes to the military, does his time. He gets a job. He works 30 years, has wife, kids. Mom stays at home. She's homeschooling. She's cooking. She's loving her life. And they retire and they live, and it repeats itself. That is a harder and harder fetch. So I think our young people have to be more prepared than ever. And I think parents in the process with little children on up, and how are we preparing for them? Our guest is Dr. Nelva Lee, and her background is really important for us because it's going to touch on something super important: preparing our young people for the workforce, how to live this American dream. And then I also want to touch on healthcare, because, another thing for our young folks is they are going to have the burden of healthcare on their young, healthy bodies in an older generation. Healthcare is very expensive right now. The care is not good. There's so much to tap into. Doctor, so good to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let us start with, I guess, kind of how did you get activated into a passion of helping young people and kind of preparing them? Give us a little insight there, if you would.
I guess it's really from my own personal story, Matthew. When I was a freshman in high school, I made a decision to be one of the first in my family to obtain a college degree, but there was no funds, if you will, to send me to college. Sure. So I decided the summer between my junior and senior year in high school to obtain a trade certificate in the industry that I intended to go into, which was healthcare. And that was a game changer for me. So it allowed me to pay my way through college, first my bachelor's, my master's, and ultimately a doctorate in healthcare administration. And I believe in trade school so much that I decided to start my own trade school 20 years ago. I trained bilingual individuals to become medical interpreters. And I've seen through that trade school the pride and the purpose that's given to people through obtaining a trade school certification. And I've never understood why we went away from providing that as an alternative to college. We all know college tuition has surpassed inflation since the 1980s. It used to be that a Pell Grant would cover 70% of someone's college tuition. Now it barely scratches the surface. Everyone graduates college with a huge mortgage, basically, and not really a guarantee of a good paying job. Whereas most trades, you don't have the college, you can skip over the debt and still end up with something as a six-figure job. If you're going into electrician or welding or plumbing, you can have a six-figure income without the debt. But then there's other everyone says, well, those are blue collar jobs. Well, what about the trade schools that are needed for coders and all the myriad of certifications that are needed in the medical field?
Yes. None
of those require a college degree, and yet they're very good paying jobs. I want to see, especially here in the state of Georgia, for us to be the first ones to launch this, to see college, high school graduates graduate with not only a high school diploma, but with a trade school certification alongside that. And they can decide if they want to go to college or not. If they decide to go to college, then they'll have a trade school that will fit within that industry.
I mean, that makes absolutely so much sense, because how many people, and let me just, because I think what you just lined up is a trap that so many families are falling into, is the status quo is do good in high school, get good grades, go to college, and then you will achieve American dream, family, wife, car, and that works for everybody. The problem is we're not cookie cutters. Not everybody is college student material, and the money maybe isn't there, the attention isn't there, the direction and the focus. I mean, I was not an appropriate candidate for college. I should have been out there working. And guess what? When I finally quit college and began working, that's when light bulbs started to going off and innovation, and I could do this. And so we can't treat everybody like that, because I have a feeling a lot of people that are Now, you had a little different ambition. You said, I'm going to do something and I'm going to figure out a way to get it done. I want to talk maybe later if we can. Do our young people still have that same fire of go get them like it takes to do that? But, you said, okay, let's do it. Once you get into it, now, do I really want to go invest 100,000 in my education? Or maybe I'm a small business plumber, small business, you name in, fill in the blank, paying my bills, growing my business, developing my opportunities. What happened? How did that become not a great path to success for the average person? What was it?
We're actually doing the reverse though, Matthew, because when you're getting that huge debt, that huge college debt, now you're not even eligible to get an actual mortgage. So they're delaying the purchase. First time home buyers are being pushed further and further out.
I heard
40
38 years old right now is the average age of the first time home buyer. That's crazy.
Exactly. It is.
Yep.
It's crazy. So we're delaying the American dream, all in favor of this gimmick, really, that is a college education. Now, don't get me wrong. I want everyone that wants to have a college education to obtain that, but it's not for everyone. And we should prepare our students to, when they graduate high school, for a career, for an actual career. So it's right now it's high school and a job that does not pay the bills, or it's college with a huge debt. Those are the options that our young people are given, and I think that's wrong.
Yeah, I think that's really well laid out because it's true. That is the two options. I mean, you can be the exception to you have this diabolical vision of a business out of high school and you just go. That is a rare individual. But for the average person that says, I still need time to grow into my, calling, do I have to start to take on immediate debt because my friends and high school classmates will be? Or can we explore stuff? So it really is a bold move. To me, it fits a lot with that sort of homeschool mom mentality, where when we want the cookie cutter child, we'll get them in public school, we'll get them in college, and they'll spit out that. The new mom, the new kind of era of homeschool mom, it's rebirth, the mama bear. It's been a great movement. I mean, don't you feel like that mentality starting out at homeschooling positions that kid differently, making that college or job decision? What do you think on there?
Well, I was a homeschool mother. My first child is on the spectrum, and I decided to homeschool him through fifth grade. And you're correct. It positioned him to have a very different viewpoint of education, period. He's a lifelong learner, loves to read, loves to research, and he's a businessman. Yes, he has a career as a civil engineer, but he also has a business on the side as well. So I definitely agree with that we can't just turn out the cookie cutter for everyone. For sure.
And don't children have to have a love of learning? I mean, don't they have to want to read, want to explore, want to expand the mind? And I just noticed so many kids, it's like you send them into that system and it deadens that desire, that love of learning. It's a chore, it's a discipline, it's a you better. And we just have to totally re-envision that because we're not producing now. And I think society is speaking for itself. I don't see that we're producing a nationwide rebirth of happiness and joy and freedom. I don't feel like the American person is living their best life ever. I think it's a very stressful life. I think it's a very expensive life. I think it's a debt-ridden life. And a lot of people don't appreciate the burden of heavy debt, what that does on a day after day. And here's college calling. And it's like, this was 10 years ago. I got drunk for the last time in college and I'm still paying like I was still there. It's totally crazy. It's totally bizarre. So then where do you see, what are these really great crafts, trades that people can develop, pick up the degrees or the certification relatively simply, inexpensively, and plug in and get working? I mean, what's the good matches right now?
Right. So again, I believe that it should be universal. I think that the first complaint that you get for trade schools is that we're just trying to get the kids that are not college, bound. So I feel that it should be universal. Everyone should graduate high school with a trade school certification. So if you're bound, if you're headed to college, then get a trade school certification that is within the industry. So say, for example, you want to be a lawyer, you should get a paralegal certification.
Yes.
Something that's within the industry that you're planning to study in college. Not only will that give you instant experience, right? As you're going through college, but you're going to be able to graduate with some real world knowledge and real world experience. So many people are graduating college without any experience in their field. So it could divert people away from spending tons of hundreds of thousands of dollars if they find out that the industry that they're wanting to go to college for is not for them. So it could help with that. But also, like I said, if you do graduate within that industry, now you have experience to go along with that degree. So that's what I was able to leverage, really, was experience on top of the degree. I was able to get a good paying job upon graduating college. Now, for those that are not college bound, again, there's a myriad of trade schools out there, and with industries that are really dying, as far as really, you have a lot of baby boomers that are retiring in these areas of plumbing and electrician and welding, you name it, that need to be replaced.
Yes.
And then on top of that, we are outsourcing so many of our coding and those types of technical computer science types of degrees.
Yes.
To Pakistan and other countries, because not enough of our young people are getting those certifications. And so really and truly, it's a matter of simply matching someone's curiosity and someone's desire to a trade school. And I think we need to start doing that in the 8th grade. Yes. When they're starting to think about careers and their future. It doesn't mean that this is going to be something that you have to do for the rest of your life, but it gives you a leg up. It gives you a chance to have a good paying job while you're trying to figure out your life. That's how I.
And I think it's so strange to think, well, if you want to try college, you got to risk 25 grand or whatever to try it out for a year. You know what I mean? That's for a young person that just got out of living in their parents' basement or bedroom, having their lunches packed for them each day, and now they're going to make a decision like that. It is crazy. And then we send them off to dorms and we say, get drunk, have fun, call us for. It's totally whacked out of a system, and we're producing not the best of all incomes. Yes. Our guest is Dr. Nelva Lee, and we're talking about preparing our children, getting that ready. We're talking about the homeschool movement. So you would have been early on. If you're doing this 25, 30 years ago, you're back when homeschool kids were the weirdos and they must be really religious, and I'm just so grateful that has come to. No, this is how you do this. You want to parent how the Lord wants it. You want to teach how the Lord wants it. You want to bring up kids that are wise. You do it like this. And that's not to knock. I'm sure there's some fantastic teachers, and I'm sure but guess what? There is not a single teacher on this planet that has your child's best interest ahead of what you would feel for your child. And so, what about that experience? So just for parents that are saying, well, gosh, it's super easy to send them to public school. It's cheap, it's free. It's, I guess what's the process of if you wanted to dip your toe into homeschool mom?
Right. Like I said, I did it because out of necessity for me. My son was on the spectrum, and I didn't want him labeled. I didn't want him to grow up with that. And he was also incredibly gifted academically, right? And so I didn't want him held back in any way. And so I really just looked at a curriculum that were Christian-based, but also had some results oriented to them. So I used Abeka initially, and that was an amazing curriculum because it had the phonics, and it just taught it so easily. I mean, it was amazing just how easy it was to teach reading, to just learning his letters and his sounds, and even the math curriculum that Abeka had was so easy to instruct my child with that. And Abeka makes it very, very simple for those that are afraid of homeschooling or teaching their child, because they also have video component to it as well. And then we always supplemented. So we did, I was very fortunate here in Georgia. There was a lot of like co-ops, if you will, homeschool co-ops. And we supplemented with music education. So he did band and piano lessons. And of course, tons of sports. He was very active in you name it, karate and soccer and baseball and all of that. So he had a very well-rounded education. And we we would get annual memberships to like the zoo or to
Yep.
museums. And so we would go every month on a field
Yep.
trip. And so he
Awesome.
got an amazing education, not to mention the bond
Yeah.
that up to this day, it cannot be replicated. The time that
And
we
speak
spent
to
with each
that. This is very
other.
important because we do a similar thing, and we talk to a lot of our church friends, and doing a very similar thing, homeschool, some kind of co-op hybrid, and they do speak to that as that relationship dynamic kind of change.
Yes.
Either between the children, because you're now parent and teacher, and but in your case, you're saying that was a strengthening bond and a very impactful bonding.
It was. I mean, even till this day, we are so close. I mean, so much closer than I see your
Yes,
average mom and
that's
young
great.
adult son. And
Yeah, no, that's beautiful.
I really believe it's because of all that time that we spent together.
Yeah. And it's so good because, that's what, and I'm sure he would have had a great memory with some fourth grade teacher or whatever, but this
Right.
one's for life, and this one's cemented. So
Exactly.
I love that. Beautiful. Another thing I want to speak to just on our young children, because, I mean, if you don't have a heart for children, you just can't lead. I mean, we have to take care of these children. If we're not looking out for them, who is? And the answer is no one. That's why we have to look at these things. But in this case, we look at the sort of the health landscape for our young ones. And I'm talking about kids that are, they're coming up now. Our children are obese. Our children are having challenges with the mental, the psyche. They're having depression and the suicide and the drug use and the pornography. And I step back. Our kids today have access to stuff we couldn't dream of.
Exactly.
A dirty magazine. Maybe one kid in the class had it, and it was his dad's, and every kid's got it now. Drugs are no problem now.
Everything's readily available. Yes.
It's too much access for our young ones. And I just wonder then, in your course of the last 30 years, the challenges that we saw, gosh, this is the 90s versus today. I want to just speak to that headwind that our young folks also have. Now, not only are they dealing with career, the health landscape and the disasters looming if we make bad decisions with our phones, if we make bad decisions on our social media, blah, blah, blah. Speak to that if you would. Just a lot more going on, it seems like, for them.
For sure. So as you know, I'm running for superintendent of schools here in the state of Georgia. And one of the initiatives that I'd like to see on day one, really, if I'm elected, is I would like to do a green light to LifeWise. I don't know if you're familiar with LifeWise. It's a national program that does biblically based character development in the school system. So it partners with the public school systems, but it doesn't do their instruction within the school grounds because obviously of the separation of church and state. But as long as the parents are okay with it, they take that child during the hour that, maybe their elective hour, and they take them to an offsite location and they teach them biblically based character development. That program has a proven track record of reducing anxiety and behavior problems in the school system. So for me, it's a no-brainer. Why not partner with this organization system-wide, the entire Georgia school system? So I will definitely greenlight that. That would be one of my first executive decisions when I become superintendent of schools of Georgia. The other thing is I wrote a book, Matthew. It's called Be the Superhero of Your Story. And I wrote it in response of what I saw with COVID and how much anxiety our young people were experiencing because of it. There was so much anxiety and depression. In fact, statistically, our suicide rates just shot up as an aftermath of COVID. Alcoholism, you name it. I mean, all the mental health ills really just doubled down during COVID and the aftermath. And that book was a result of that. If you will, I wanted to teach young people, especially, it's a book for anyone, but especially it was geared to young people to teach them something about resilience. Like whenever a challenge comes your way, it's really God's way of setting you up for success.
The book of James says, consider it all joy.
Exactly, exactly. I believe that, one of my favorite verses, all things work together for good to those who love God. So whenever you're faced with a challenge, it's your opportunity really to show off God's strength within you, and his spirit gets to show off within you. So we really need to have a completely different perspective when we face challenges.
It's really such a sad thing. I'll be honest with you. It was COVID that got me walking tight with the Lord. Okay. It was very
Nice.
clear
Mhm.
good and evil had emerged, and you could pick one or the other. And I believe we still live in that all day, every day. You're either
Yes.
working under the spirit of the Holy Spirit or of the dark side. There's only two influences, and they're battling. And I know one thing that's happened to America is that we've shunned away God. We've absolutely ejected him from every institution, and they've
Mhm.
rotted as a result of that. And so, my thing has been two things. A, if you're a Christian that says you love the Lord, you need to be acting that way in all of your purchasing, your voting, your
Yes.
actions, everything. Everything has to reflect it. Meaning, if I'm going to take my money out of the kingdom and put it into Satan's hands, I need to check where's my walk with the Lord. Same thing with my education of my child. I say I love the Lord, and that's where we came to. We love the Lord, but we're going to send them to people who actually don't care about the Lord, dislike the Lord, hate the Lord. How can I say I love my child and I'm willing to do everything for them, but I'm going to send them into that institution? Now, that's just me. I came to that, and everybody comes to that their
Mhm.
understanding. But it's in all of our affairs. If we're a Christian, we need to be led by other Christians in the capacity of education, in the
Correct.
capacity of healthcare. How can I go to, and this is going to sound, oh, what a mean thing to say, but it's absolutely true. If you want healthcare, you want a doctor, life on the line, I want a Christian doctor. Okay.
Mhm.
Sorry. End of story. Because I know a non-Christian doctor's view of life, and that's how we have outrageous abortion, outrageous LGBTQ. We have to start saying, I'm a Christian who loves the Lord, and I want to be with those who love the Lord and grow that kingdom. But I can't go to church on Sunday and then spend all my money and time in the world and make no changes, because either I'm going to be corrupted to the world if I'm not corrupting them to Christianity and pulling them over to where we want them. And so we have to pour into these stories, and we have to be bold and say, it was faux pas, and it maybe still is a little bit, that you don't mention the Lord and say God, and everything that you have right now in your life is from God. You may not give him credit for it, but I'm telling you that's
Exactly.
the truth. When we bring our people closer to that understanding that says, wow, Holy Spirit, you made this and gave me this, and you can take away that and extend this, like that, you're stop. We have to get back to that obedience as human beings
Yes.
and let
Yes.
ourselves be led by something so much greater than ourselves. And so people got to step up to these roles and say, I will do it, send me. Okay. And that's
Yes.
what we're looking for. God will select them. Okay. And that's who God's picked for this time. Okay. Let's rally behind him and let's get behind him. And let's just, because even though these people that say, I don't want God in schools and in separation, that's such a perverted thing. All these atheists, if they have a child and you can drop them off at a Christian evangelical church for an hour or a whorehouse for an hour, every
Which
single
will they
one of them's
choose?
dropped. Yeah, exactly. So don't ever come at me trying to tell me that this is not. Same thing with when the police, you got robbery in the neighborhood, you're calling the police. Don't tell me that all police are bad or whatever. Okay. You guys know when your life's on the line, God's there. God is present. Even these atheists know that. So I just think it's good. And I just think be bold with it, just out there. And it's like, you know what? And you're starting to see the athletes do it. You're starting to see more public figures say, Christ is
Yes.
king. And it's all good. And we'd love to have you. But it takes obedience and it takes all of this stuff. And so this is so good. So this is Dr. Nelva Lee, of course. Now, when is elections? Give us all the timing on this. How can people
Sure.
support, find, and follow all of this candidacy?
Yes. So I am, first of all, in the primary. So the current incumbent, he's been there for 11 years, going on 12. And during that time, Georgia has declined in the rankings. So we're now 38th out of 50. That's atrocious. 70% of our fourth graders are not reading at the fourth grade level. 76% of our eighth graders are not proficient in math. And those are rankings that have decreased under Richard Wood's tenure. So I am fighting to unseat him. And so first and foremost, for anyone that's in Georgia, I like your votes. And what I'm telling everyone, if you go to my website, drnelvalee.com, there's a button that says Meet Dr. Lee. I will come to your churches, to your homes, to your
Awesome.
community centers, and I will lay out my platform. But for those that are not in Georgia, you can definitely support me by, financially, and you can donate right on my website as well, drnelvalee.com. And you mentioned something, Matthew,
Yes.
As far as stepping up to the plate. And I truly believe that this is why I'm doing this. This is a calling for me. And, the verse that says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, then will I forgive their sins and heal their land. It starts with us. We can't point fingers at the world. It starts with us. We have to be the ones to shine the light. And if you shine the light in the darkness, just one little flicker can lighten a whole dark room. So we can't be afraid of the darkness. We have to shine the light. And so that is really why I'm running for office. And so I really would love for your listeners to support that.
That speaks right to the heart of what we're doing, is that we know that we're going to vote our way out of this. It has to be meticulous. It has to be wise. It has to be spirit led, because it's going to take the right people. The system right now is not going to change organically. It just isn't going to. It'll get worse. These stats that you just rolled out, you'll be 40th next year, and you'll be, if things continue. There's no doubt about that. And you have now a situation where you have kids that are not at level, but they're entering the most expensive, competitive environment in the history of the free world. It's terrifying. And, used to think, oh, your kid can't move out of the house. What's wrong with, how could he? Where is he supposed to go? What will they buy? The average house is $450,000 in America. What the heck? Exactly. You got to be rich. You're rich to have that house. Are you kidding me? And so, praise God for just putting in perspective that we probably don't have a lot of time yet to correct this. It's a big ship that's been going the wrong way for 50 years. And now we're going to turn it back over. And it starts with, organically, mom and dad, let me say this to you like this. Got to get you to church, got to be regular in church and with the community. Okay. And what you're going to find, mom and dad, is as soon as that starts happening, things start to come into your mind, wisdom friends that you didn't think you had, you now have friends inside that body of church. Then all of a sudden, opportunities, way you can do things at home. We're handling conflict differently. We're more productive with our time. There's more peace in the home. Every dad in the world, he's working his butt off. At the end of the day, he wants to come home to peace in the home. Are the kids well fed? Is mom taken care of? And that's all we're looking for. So we actually go back, we revert to basics. We don't need Netflix and Disney and all this stuff. We don't need all that stuff. We need to know our kids. Okay, you get this? You get what we're on this earth for? And are you looking for your purpose? Because we're going to find it. We're going to pour into it. So if your kid is going to be an actor, you pour into that. If your kid's gifted over here in debate or what, you pour into that. Everything's on the table for our children. Let the Spirit lead them. You get behind them. Now, we're not going to go start a chicken farm at 6 years old, because that's no. You'll know. It's like, there's the gifting. Let's get into that gifting. You know what I mean? Yes, but you got to be in the Spirit to do it. So it's a beautiful spirit. I love exactly where your heart is from, where your heart is going. It's a beautiful story. We'll get all the ways to connect you, and just prayers with you as we lift you up for this unseating. And this is a great thing. We do not want politicians in there for the rest of their life. You come in, you do your service, you lay the blueprint, and you get out and let the next man step up, next woman step up.
For term limits, exactly. I'm with you there.
And we don't need a mansion at the end of the thing. You know what I mean? But they say, hey, aren't you that lady that changed schools? And they said, the Lord sent me, and I went head first in, and we changed generations. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. You can keep your mansion. We changed generations. Okay. Yes. So praise to the Lord for putting you in this position. We want to thank you. We'll stay connected with you. And folks, do this until next time. Serve God, help others, stay good. Goodbye. God bless everybody.
The Matthew Dark Show, your one-stop show for truth, courage, fellowship, and faith. Available everywhere you get your podcasts.